Hello beer tubers and welcome to a little bit of a Throwback Thursday video, which is actually a Throwback Thursday and a brand new review of a beer that I never reviewed, which is nuts. So I actually wanted to throw back with something completely different. I wanted to throw back with some Anchor beer because Anchor just closed. Anchor was bought by Sapporo. I think everyone has already talked about it, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but Sapporo decided to close it. Sales has been declining for a very long time. We used to be able to get like their Liberty Ale, their Steam beer, Old Foghorn Barley Wine, Celebration. No, Celebration Ale was never here in Denmark or Europe, at least Denmark. I think there was a brown ale too. There's a few different beers usually available from, I think it was imported by someone like One Pint or something in Denmark, who also imports Sierra Nevada. So I wanted to do those just to revisit them and try and see if I could find some before, stuff expires and whatnot, since what's going to be on the market in Europe right now is what we're going to get, I'm sure. And it's a very renowned brewery because they're technically the first brewery, like the inventor of the steam beer, or also known as California Common. And they were also one of the first people to do a pale ale, American pale ale, with Liberty Ale, which I've reviewed. I've reviewed a lot of the beers on the channel. You can go and search on the channel and have a look. So I wanted to revisit them, but I couldn't find any on like Danish webshops or anything. So we're doing something completely different instead. We're doing Sierra Nevada because I stumbled on these and I'm like, wow, I haven't had these beers in ages, and they were reasonably fresh. So with American imports, sadly with One Pint imports, a lot of the beers are often not very fresh, but these surprised me. So we're checking out the Pale Ale from Sierra Nevada and Torpedo. I never reviewed the Pale Ale, and actually when I studied in the States, in 2012, once in a while I would get like Verity packs from Sierra Nevada to bring to parties, or Stone beers and whatnot. Like I would drink a lot of this supermarket, larger brewery stuff in the beginning because I've heard of them and knew of them and whatnot, until I kind of discovered the local scene, discovered Marble beer, and discovered what are they called? Elevated IPA, La Cumbre, which was just like so good and so fresh. And then of course I tried loads of other stuff. Like back then was also where like the West Coast scene was just booming with great breweries like Alpine and whatnot. But yeah, I did drink a good amount of Sierra Nevada back in the day and tried a lot of their like one-offs, like Optimum and Ruthless Rye, and there was quite a few. Also just like Narwhal and Bigfoot, whatnot. But I haven't drunk this beers in years, so I was like, okay, with the whole situation with Anchor Steam, maybe we should get on some Sierra Nevada. I don't think Sierra Nevada is a brewery that's going to close anytime soon because they've managed to stay somewhat relevant. I think one of the problems with something like Anchor Steam is like, I've heard from people as well, like online, that like shifting the product has been hard. It's not like they haven't really tried to keep up with the times. I think you can both keep up with the times and stay relevant, but also have core range beers like this that are iconic and is not going anywhere. It just depends on how you're doing it. And I think they kind of started to do something of the sort with Anchor because they started changing the graphic and artwork and all this. But it's a shame because it's really a huge part of American craft beer history. So, but yeah, hey, let's cheers in some Sierra Nevada instead, one of the other old guys. So the Pale Ale, again, I never reviewed it. I thought I did, but this is a really iconic American Pale Ale. It was really the beer that made this Cascade hop popular, which is in here. It's 38 IBUs, 5.6% ABV, and with Cascade hops. Chico yeast, very famous, from these guys as well, because they're based in Chico in California. And that's pretty much the yeast that most West Coast breweries still use for like clean, like West Coast IPAs, pale ales, whatever. So, that's also one of the reasons why these guys are iconic. And they use crystal malts and pale ale, two-row pale ale malts in this. So that's basically it. This was canned on the 2nd of January. So it's 6 months old. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I try it. That's a reasonably fresh, which is insane. But that's with the big brand beers like these guys, and I think Stone to some extent as well, and Lagunitas, and some of the things that now are supermarket beers in Europe as well. When we get them, they're at least like 4 months. Sometimes you're lucky to find 3 or 2, but it's rare. But then we got Torpedo. I loved this back in the day. I drank it a lot. They call it an extra IPA. It's 7.2%. It's also made with crystal malts. It's also made with Cascade, but then also crystal and citra hops. 7.2% ABV, 65 IBUs, I believe. And yeah, this used to be also like a spot deal kind of beer along with this. So if we went to parties, me and my friends would often drink Torpedo and Pale Ale here in Denmark because you could get them for like 15 crowns on sale in supermarkets sometimes. And my friend Lasse, who's been on the channel a few times, it's been a while since he's been on, but what's it called? The Chieftain of, the Sultan of Simcoe. This used to be his favorite beer. He loved Torpedo. When we went to parties, he always brought Torpedo. But yeah, this is reasonably fresh. It's a little bit fresher. This is actually only 3 months old. This is from the 7th of April. So a little more than 3 months. So let's dive in. Drink some Pale Ale. And we're going to use some old money glass. I don't know if it's old money, but it's glassware I never use. I remember all these bigger breweries have really advocated using the Spiegelau glass, the IPA glass. And I actually did a video where I tried to compare and see if it was better than a regular glass. And it was, actually. But I haven't used these in years because they're difficult to clean, but I thought I'd break them out for these. So let's check out the Pale Ale. I mean, it's nice, slightly hazy. It's can conditioned, by the way, so that's most likely why. Copper, rust orange color. It's got a white head. Let's check out the aroma on Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. I haven't had this probably since studying in the States, or maybe at an odd beer fest. No, at the Whiskey Festival in Denmark, down in Kolding. I think that's the last time I had it on draft, or maybe that was Torpedo. But let's check it out. That is so nostalgic, man. That is so nostalgic. Whoa, that is so nostalgic. It smells like a good beer, but you can smell that it's got age. But it also smells like there's a lot of hot side hops. I don't think this is actually dry hopped. They don't talk about that. They talk about Torpedo uses dry hopping with their hop Torpedo. I'm not sure if Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is. But yeah, it's classic Cascade hop aromas. Grapefruit, pine, resin. There's like sugar-coated pink grapefruit because of the sweetness of crystal malts as well, making it a little bit cloying with age. But right now, it doesn't smell like it's cloying. Like these, like I also want to drink these beers ice cold because of the crystal malt. But yeah, there's almost like a hint of rye, but I don't think there's rye in it. But there's some spiciness that could also be from Cascade and like floral nuances. But it's not really smelling oxidized, which is impressive. And that's why you want cans over bottles, especially with these imports that can sit on shelves for ages. Yeah, cans can oxidize as well, but often the cans are just going to be better because the beer is better protected than in a bottle. Yeah, there's a slight like resiny, piney note there on the back as well, with almost something that smells a bit like red berries. It smells good though, and it doesn't really have that tea leafy oxidized hop flavor that you sometimes get with these with age. Well, let's try it. Cheers. That's really nostalgic. really nostalgic. I think the most dead-on flavor for this is sugar-coated pink grapefruit. That's totally it because of the crystal malt. And I think in this case, it's quite all right. Also, it's impressive. I mean, this is 6 months. There's not that tea leafy old hop flavor. I don't know if this has been shipped over cold. I don't know if they actually do that at one point. But often with age on old school, like West Coasty type beers, I get a lot of like tea leafy, marmalade-y flavors. And often when you get that like black tea herbal thing, it's often because you have like oxidizing of hops in the bottle or the can, and then you start to get that more than like the bright fun flavors. This really reminds me of getting this when I was in the States and when you went out or went to a party, brought a 6-pack. It's a nice pale ale. Like I would chug this. It's really easygoing, bitter, piney, grapefruity, resiny, and I'm so surprised that it's holding up for 6 months. I'm sure this would be much more fun to drink fresh, especially at the source. But it's actually doing quite all right. And it's such an iconic beer. It's about time I actually tried this on the channel. Let's move on to Torpedo, because this video is already quite long. Hope you bear with me. Beer with me. Holy shit, that was bad. But Torpedo, so a few different hops in here. Citra as well, and Crystal, along with Cascade. And more crystal malts. I really don't like, the thing is also with crystal malts that will pre-oxidize hops as well because there's oxygen in crystal malts. Yeah, you can say a lot of that will be taken up during fermentation and whatnot, but there's just something about it. Crystal malts and IPAs, to me, in high concentrations, just makes the hop profile quite different. You get that like sugary hop flavor more so than if it's just a leaner base beer. But I mean, this looks like what I remember as well. Nice streaming carbonation, definitely like dark copper color, off-white head. Let's take out the aroma. Oh man, I haven't had Torpedo in so long. Let's try this. Yeah, it smells kind of like an amplified version of the pale ale with even more malt and even more hops. Surprisingly though, the pale ale jumps more out of the glass, and that could be due to the amount of crystal malt being higher in this. It's got a little bit of the butterscotch toffee. It's more piney, resiny, but definitely also a lot of citrus aromas. That's sugar-coated pink grapefruits there for sure. But it's not like this smells more vibrant and fresh. But it's the older can. Interesting. Yeah, more malt for sure. But it smells nice though. Let's try it. Cheers. Smells really old money. That's really even more like taking you back. Bitter, resiny, black tea. There we go. That's definitely on here, but it's lighter than I remember in having examples of American IPA and pale ales back in the day, like 10 years ago. And I think it's because brewers are very much more concerned about oxygen in their beer and oxygen uptake these days. So it's like a little bit of that like black tea orange marmalade, or like a grapefruit orange marmalade, blood orange and grapefruit marmalade type flavor. And like almost like this, it doesn't have rye, but it also has like a spicy, almost rye-esque profile. But I think that's the hops. It's like spicy black pepper and herbs too. It's quite herbal. But this is like, a lot of people these days, they still want this when they hear West Coast IPA. At least to my knowledge, what I've seen online and things like that, a lot of people in Europe that's not discovered the modern approach, or just the approach that like brewers like Alpine did. And also like some of the OG Stone stuff, like Enjoy By and 10th Anniversary Ruination. Just like Pliny for that matter. I mean, Pliny, and Blind Pig, they rely a lot less on those crystal malts these days. I think Vinny has said it himself that like over time they slowly just started pulling out these crystal malts from their beers because they agree with the fact that like it just dilutes the hop flavor a little bit. So it's not like they fine-tuned those iconic beers over time. And this just tastes like this is how it was brewed originally, and it's staying the same. And I think that's cool as well. It's nice to have some beers like this is how this beer is going to taste. If you get it like 2 years from now, there's nothing really changed. And quite a potent beer too. And I think it also feels even more potent. Like it's dry hop, but it doesn't feel like, it doesn't have that burst of excess hop aroma as you get in modern beer. But it feels intense. And I think part of that is like the intensity of hot side edition hops. There's a lot of hot side edition hops because you get that really oily, resiny flavor much more in this than in the other one. And of course, also the bitterness also makes it seem more potent and intense. But yeah, like that, like blood orange, pink grapefruit marmalade on like a toasted bread with some toffee caramel nuances. Like, it's so different from modern IPAs. And I think a lot of people will shit on these, but I actually think both of them are quite nice beers. Especially also just like their history and everything. And I'm amazed how well they hold up. I mean, there is a bit of that tea leaf character I talked about in this, but I don't think it's overdone. But in terms of grades, yeah, I definitely prefer the pale ale. You can definitely see why this is an iconic beer. Really grapefruity and citrusy, and actually quite nice. I really want to drink this really fresh again. That'd be really fun. Maybe that's a itinerary at one time. Next time I'm in the States, go to Chico, visit Sierra Nevada. Yeah, is it like almost a straight 90? Like, I think so. It's pretty fucking great pale ale, to be honest. Maybe an 88. Like, it's close to I think maybe at the source it'd be a 90 because it'd be a bit more vibrant. But for the fact that this is a shelfie beer, it's, was it 6 months in the can? I'm surprised how well this is drinking. So I think, like, yeah, maybe an 88. Whereas Torpedo, I mean, this is nice old school IPA, but I just prefer much more vibrant modern flavors. You can feel that this is also a beer that's going to get cloying as it warms because the crystal malt is going to, you know, really take over. But I know they've made a few different variants on this over the years. They made like, now they have a cryo version with cryo hops, atomic something, which is like a double IPA version. I think they actually, I can't see it right now, but I looked up on Sierra Nevada's website what they have available, and I think they had a whole mix pack with just like variants of Torpedo, which is also like a big brand for them, I think. But it's still a good beer. It's like an 85. I still think this is a good beer. That you can't take anything, like no brewing flaws, no mistakes. But I think to a lot of modern palates, this will be a bit too old school. Maybe the pale ale wouldn't, but I think this would, Torpedo. But I think they're a recommendation. Right now in Denmark, try and go to your local supermarkets. This was at a spa. And the cans of Sierra Nevada was reasonably fresh, besides the wild little thing that was like expired in 20, or no, canned in 21. But I think it's like with Brettanomyces or something. I was like, yeah, let's steer clear of that. But if you guys want to see me do more, and maybe not as long reviews of some supermarket kind of shelfy stuff, let me know. I think it's a bit fun to dive into that once in a while as well. And it makes me want to also revisit some of the stuff I really adored when I was getting into craft beer, but a lot of it you can't get anymore. Like, I'd love to revisit also like some of the classic English beers that I really got into, but like even getting Fuller's now seems hard. And like the Badger Brewery was one of the big ones for me. That was like the first real, it's not even craft beer, real ale, I guess. That was like the first non-lager beer I had, which just blew my mind. Their Golden Champion. But stuff like that you can't get here anymore. Like classic English beers really faded off the market. Maybe I need to go to the wharf and do some videos on classic cask beer, like I did back in the day. But yeah, nice beers. Check them out. I think you can get these year round. But right now, it seems like you can find some fresh cans of this in the country. So if you guys recently had Sierra Nevada Pale Ale or Torpedo, let me know what you thought of them. As always, remember to comment, subscribe to the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Ring the bell for future notifications about videos. And I'm going to say cheers. And quite a legendary beer that really put the American hop program and breeding like crazy American hop varieties on the map. So cheers to that, and cheers, and see you guys in another beer review.